So I'm going to start with the following instructions must be observed. A responsible member of each family, preferably the head of the family or the person in whose name most of the property is held, and each individual living alone will report to the Civil Control Station to receive further instructions. This must be done between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturday, April 25, 1942, or between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Sunday, April 26, 1942. Evacuees must carry with them on departure for the Assembly Center the following property: bedding and linens, no mattress, for each member of the family, toilet articles for each member of the family, extra clothing for each member of the family, sufficient knives, forks, spoons, plates, bowls, and cups for each member of the family, essential personal effects for each member of the family. All items carried will be securely packaged, tied, and plainly marked with the name of the owner and numbered in accordance with instructions obtained at the Civil Control Station. The size and number of packages is limited to that which can be carried by the individual or family group. So this bag is supposed to represent what they could carry 75 years ago to Manazanar. So my newest book is a novel in verse that is based in Manazanar and Sendai, Japan. And I'm glad you mentioned the artwork because I brought a couple pieces because the story actually started with the art first. So I do fiber art, and this is one of my characters. Two of them actually, because the swallow became a character too. So the book is called Moon of Many Petals. And there's a family, Mio and Takumi. And they live in Morro Bay, and they're going to be forced to move to Manazanar in the story. A quiet light. As the autumn sun hid, Mio said, "I am pregnant." Takumi's eyes grew large. "We're going to have a baby," he shouted. Mio could not handle breakfast of miso soup with rice, eggs, fish, and pickles. She craved mochi, but it was cold, and the womb is meant to be warm. Willow leaves fell, so tired, desolate. She walked by the cypress and sea otters in the chill of dawn, said good morning to a covey of quail. They dashed into the wind-blown grasses. Never. So my narrator is an unborn child who's watching all this happen. The shaman's circle encompasses the stars, and beyond them the shadow of creation so vast it touches children yet unborn. Nancy Wood. Never did I feel air touch water or follow breath. Soul has weight. Edges. Sometimes I dream of hearing the wind, rusted wings, two smooth skipping stones, and the soul inside the butterfly. Side by side like lungs, the edges buzzed, began to flap, open, closed. There I met my first divided cell. So it's interesting with this book, there's no table of contents and no page numbers, and the poems just flow together, which is new for me to have that happen, but I like it as a story. And to get to know the parents just a little bit, ancient arts. That day my father, Takumi, painted deer and plum design with ink on kimono silk, his hands steady. He was determined to practice Yuzen dyeing method in America, while my mother, Mio, embroidered in gold. Abundantly beautiful butterfly. My mother's favorite doll, Fumicho, wore a gold metallic and orange obi with a peach blossom kimono and had a bald head. Mother pretended the doll was a famous dancing geisha like her grandmother, Natsumi, and would place the takomai wig with two flowers upon her. I would have created stories with my dolls. I actually have this doll. It's from the 40s. And so it's a Japanese geisha, and then it's all the different hair because of different levels of geisha. So they lived in Morro Bay, and they were safe and part of the neighborhood. And then all of a sudden things changed. Womb as Cosmos. 1941, U.S. enters World War II after Pearl Harbor attack December 7th. Withered leaves cover fox, snow-broken branches. Fingerprints. One day, sun split mountains, clouds, sky, lingering heat as I would listen to the stones in my head tell me ancient stories. 2. At 10 weeks, peaks and valleys texture and become my fingerprints. 3. Fire drums with plumes reaching high, firstborn, 8 islands of Japan, ancestors of trees and fish, sun and moon also birth, north, south, east, west, above, and below. So my narrator visits her great-grandmother in Japan. Winter evening tea ceremony. Drinking a bowl of green tea, I stopped the war. That's Paul Rips. Before matcha green tea and Japanese sweets, the connections in my brain blossomed. Soon I would meet in a past life great-grandmother Natsumi at a Sendai tea house. Lanterns glowed on the stepping stone path. An austere chill filled the air. I walked across an arched bridge frosted with ice and snow. My steps crunched. My breath created crystal silence in the inner garden. I locked my wings as I sat on the waiting bench. The tea ceremony began with the chime of a bell. I washed my hands in the stone basin as a symbol of leaving the dust of the real world behind. I scooted into the tea house. The heaviness of my flying cranes over pine tree kimono rustled. My burgundy wings unfurled. This unborn soul occupied my butterfly geisha body. Candlelight spread harsh shadows across tatami mats. The sound of my feet swished under carved beams. I bowed. Then contemplated the Enso scroll, circle of enlightenment, stroked with goat hair, sumi brush dipped in ground ink. Below rested a celadon vase, embracing winter camellia and early plum blossom branches. My kimono brushed across the mats as I knelt to wait for my host. I wondered what great-grandmother would think of this faraway visitor. So for me, one of the fun things about writing is I had just read about the Enso circle, painted with the ink, and I lived in Taiwan and I tried to learn how to do some calligraphy, so I know how hard that is just to make the circle. And like a week later, I went to this art show in Claremont, and there was this artist that had done this circle and other ink paintings. And I just feel like you're on the right path. I don't know, writing, we were talking about what are we doing, where are we going? And it's just like, okay, there's my circle. It's going in my poem. And they do have the paintings in the tea houses. So I love the adventure. Illusion of Permanence. 1942, Executive Order 9066 of February 19th authorizes relocation and/or internment of anyone who might threaten the U.S. war effort. Rising carp listened to the stone Buddha, the sound of flute. This was unsteady. No Japanese wanted, except in concentration camps. San Francisco News, March 2nd, 1942. Walked barefoot on cold sand, sank, stumbled, almost fell. Spring gusts licked Mio's face. Waves eroded as constant surfers pounded. Could not see past the ghost marine lair, yet she knew eternity was there. Sure, it was there, a relationship in the balance. Decisions made to stop left her crumbled, now dependent upon the unknown. She trusted in rock salt, bubbled down, crawled into a house of sticks, hermit crabs scattered across the mud, never restricted in avalanche of waves, pulled by unseen shiny moon. So this is the move. Orphan 1. Mio remembered a man appeared like a tiger of sharp teeth and round eyes to buy their house for a low price. 6 months pregnant, she and Takumi had an hour to grab what they could carry, gathered what they could see. How long would they be gone? Where would they be uprooted to? The scrap of indigo fabric Takumi had dyed, one love letter, a doll to offer the goddess for a child, an origami butterfly Natsumi, her grandmother, had folded, and a few clothes scrambled into 2 suitcases didn't prepare Mio for a place of dust. 2. Neighbors yelled, Japs, go back to where you came from. Our friends fear us, said Takumi. You dared to bomb our country, will you kill us in our sleep? Takumi shielded Mio as they left for the safety of blacked-out windows on the bus. 3. Beyond was a house constructed for all the orphan children of Japanese descent. Their cries stormed the bus like an elephant trumpeting in yellow dust. So a friend told me about her mother who lived on the coast at that time, and there was so much propaganda. This woman wasn't a racist or anything, but she, was yelling at the Japanese and all of that in Long Beach. So, just taking people's stories and bits of their stories really happened. I didn't even have that part in the poem until I had that discussion, because I used to kind of hearing the other side like that. And the house for the orphan children, they took children away from the Salvation Army and all these places, the orphans, little ones, real little ones, and took them to Manazanar. Forced them to move. Moments. In the back of the bus, Mio saw the stranger, a woman. In a moment, Mio, ashamed, thought in sparrow-bone painlessness that she was no different, given a number, yet numberless, a breath with you want. Memorial. Even the croaking of frogs comes from outside the barbed wire fence. Hakuru Wako. Generations passed, our families migrated from Japan. The government told them to go to America for jobs. They were not allowed to become citizens in their new home. All it took was one piece of paper, a poster on a phone pole. Outside dust storms stung desert eyes, parched by drought. Father missed his parents. Floating paper lanterns down a river. So I felt it was important to tell this story because of the climate of our country right now and how we feel about lots of different people. Not how I feel, but in general. And, just don't want to see it happen again. And I can't tell you how many friends I have who I found out, their grandparents were in one of these camps, or they, had a friend. But a lot of them, they don't want to tell the story. They're ashamed of what happened, and they're dying because now it's been 75 years. So it's one story, but it's kind of lots of people's stories. So from this book, I was going to end with the spy. That's who she's seeing on the bus. A spy, Inu. Eyes haunted mother, whether in line, washing clothes, or during the hum of the sewing machine. Annoyed, she caught the stare of the stranger sniffing around who darted away. Even though it was illegal, mother spilled songs or recited parts of the potted trees in Japanese to her growing belly. My ears resonated in ancestral sounds. One day, a soldier forced mother to the head office. A claim the language delivered from her lips slipped loyalty to Japan. They grilled her and tried to proclaim rotten apple. She plunged into the sparse darkness of denial. They barked a warning and sent her home among the frogs' cry. With great sadness, lips trembled, persevered toward home. Swallow floated on east wind. So I found out that the Japanese aliens did not become citizens until 1952. I just think they came in the late 1800s. They were not allowed to become citizens until 1952. And in 72, Manazanar was designated a California Registered Historical Landmark, and not one person was arrested for treason in the camps.